Do animals have rights? This is a question many people ask themselves when looking at either animal testing facilities or factory farms. But before you can answer that question, do animals have rights? You first have to define what rights are. Rights come from the human world by evaluating actions as right and wrong. Rights are a valid claim made by a moral agent, so then by definition, rights are definitively human. They have to do with morality and what is just. So by this logic, animals have to be amoral, meaning they do not possess a morality. This is not an attack on animals saying that they are deserving of nothing, but it's not logical to argue that they possess a morality. Animals do not do right, they do not do wrong, they simply do. So with that in mind, animals have to be amoral, and so by that, they could not possibly possess rights. To paraphrase a scenario laid out by Carl Cohen, who illustrates the validity of animals being amoral, a lioness kills a baby zebra on the African Serengeti. Its intestines are torn out, and the baby zebra is horribly slaughtered. Now, although to many this scenario is quite alarming and disturbing, it is not immoral. Animals cannot do wrong, or right for that matter, they simply do. It's part of the evolutionary food chain. It's something needed for the lioness to survive as a species. So, if the zebra had a right to live, we as humans would be morally obligated to intervene and stop that killing. But we do not do that. And why don't we do that? It's because the zebra has no more right to live than the lioness has the right to kill. We do not intervene because the lioness is not wrong for killing the baby zebra. The lioness kills out of instinct, not out of lack of morality, and there's a big difference between the two. The lioness has learned to kill through millions of years of evolutionary trial and error, and it is essential to the species' survival. The fact that the lioness has to kill is not wrong or right, it is simply the way of life on the African Serengeti. Now, when you apply this, this changes when humans are involved. To continue the argument, yes, animals have no rights, but that does not mean that we as humans have the right to kill whenever we want. Humans have to live by a moral obligation as part of our own rights to not intentionally harm an animal. So this comes down to our own basic humanity. We are bound to moral codes, and harming an animal for no reason would go against that code. This can be examined and supported by almost all different philosophical points of view. First, if you look at virtue ethics, it's less concerned on the specific act and more concerned about who you are as a person. So if you apply this to the act of, let's say, skinning a squirrel in your backyard, it does not care about the act of skinning a squirrel, but according to the standards of virtue ethics, it would be harmful to your morality. It looks at who you are through practical reason, comparing positive and negative attributes, and this would be extremely negative. It's underlined by psychotic tendencies, and by this line of reasoning, would hurt your morality because it changes who you are as a person in a negative way. So even though the squirrel does not possess rights, a human being is bound by its own ethical code to not intentionally harm the squirrel. Now, if you look at the same scenario, at a consequentialist point of view, it looks at the values, whether right or wrong, as consequences of an action. Morality is defined by increase in happiness and decrease in pain. So apply that to the same scenario of skinning the squirrel in your backyard. There are many consequences from skinning the squirrel. It has effects on not only the specific squirrel, but potentially the surrounding forest ecosystem. According to consequentialism, this would be immoral because it would increase pain in the lives of the squirrels in the ecosystem and produce basically no pleasure. To some, animals do not have a right to live, but we as humans do not have a right to take that life for no reason. Humans have to live by a basic moral construct, and that construct does not allow us to do that. To continue this argument into modern scenarios, specifically animal testing in factory farms, we need to examine it from a human's basic rights. So, in factory farms, most animals live in horribly diseased, seemingly unimaginable conditions. The animals live in feces and in most times are in constant fear. For many people, the sights, smells, and the sounds of a factory farm are enough to turn them off of meat for a considerable amount of time. As stated earlier, no, the animals in the specific factory farms don't have rights, but this comes back to human rights and human moral codes, and factory farms go against all of them. They maximize pain and produce little pleasure. This is done through animal abuse, pollution of water and airways, through methane and fecal emissions, and contamination into waterways. The pain not only impacts every animal on the farm, but also the employees who have to manage them and the surrounding communities. Factory farms are proven to reduce air quality and contaminate waterways with fecal matter. This greatly reduces pleasure and increases pain. So to some, this shows that factory farms go against all basic human ethics, and even though they do not violate any rights against the animals. Now, when evaluating animal testing, it's a little different. While the cruelties and deaths against animals in testing facilities may seem unjust to some, it does not violate any non-existing rights that the animals are thought to falsely possess. Without animal testing, humans would not have vaccines that eradicated polio, rubella, smallpox, and the plague. While there is a considerable amount of pain put on animals, the pleasure of humans living without deathly diseases outweighs them all. So, it's not a happy place, but a very necessary one. Finally, to finish up, animals do not have rights, but human ethics and human rights require that we treat them with respect. No, they do not possess a right to live, but human ethics shows us that we have to treat them with respect, not for the animal's own good, but rather our own. Killing, hurting, or torturing animals who by nature are pure and innocent is a flaw in human conscience and goes against every type of morality. Animal testing, and to many degrees factory farms, are necessary evils, however unpleasant. At times they may go against our own moral code and humanity, but they do not infringe on non-existent rights of animals. Keep in mind, although animals do not have rights, humans must always respect animals, for if they don't, they'll end up only hurting themselves.